feel so good right now, and I don't know why, but I kind of have an idea why. You know, I was fortunate enough today to listen to some Krishna Katha. Katha is like descriptions of Krishna, you know, like glorified descriptions of Krishna, not just regular talk about Krishna, but glorified. And, you know, I was listening, of course, to a person who's one of my favorite lecturers, Amarendra Prabhu. And, you know, he was, how's it going? He was dropping jewels as usual. It was, these last 2 days I've been listening about the pastimes of Lord Jagannath. So that's probably why I'm feeling good. You know what I'm saying? So I would like to share a couple of things, but it's not actually from the video. It's just something that I noticed. So this is probably going to be a short video, but it's something that I noticed recently. Okay? And I'm going to say a quick mantra that what this Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya mantra does, it focuses your energy. It sends your energy internally. It focuses your energy internally, and then it rises up your spine like the Kundalini serpent. So when we say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So what happens then is it clears your mind enough so that you could either learn, you know, it's like, for example, the Muslims, whenever they're gonna chant the Holy Quran or talk about Quran or anything scriptural like that, the Muslims will say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So they'll say, in the name Bismi Allah, in the name of Allah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, the most yielding, the most merciful. That's what Muslims will say. So likewise in the Vedic system, whenever someone's going to, you know, speak about Krishna Katha, or they're going to quote scriptures or chant scriptures, in order to facilitate their learning, their absorption of transcendental subject matters, they will say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Because a lot of people have been asking me about that mantra. And I'll tell you something very interesting, right? Let's backtrack about 8-9 years. I used to work at a place called Fairway Market. And not for nothing, but my personal experience there, first of all, when I had started working at Fairway Market, I had just turned vegetarian. I don't like that description. I just like to say I had just abandoned the eating of flesh when I had started working at Fairway Market. And what I noticed about Fairway Market was that they had a lot of unfair practices, especially on a racial level. Like, they were very, very bad towards black people. What they would do is hire a whole bunch of black people because they know that we're very, very strong in a supportive capacity. We're very good builders. We could get your business off to a good start. So they hired a whole bunch of black people. And then what they did, as soon as they got the store running, they would find the simplest reason to fire you. You didn't even have to do nothing bad there. Let me tell you something. I don't get fired from jobs often. I got fired from Fairway Market, and I swear to y'all, I didn't do nothing wrong. What happened was, I had ordered some food, and the employee put the food on the scale, but he didn't put it fully on the scale. He put it like halfway on and halfway off the scale. I had nothing to do with that. I kind of noticed afterwards what had happened. But I didn't say nothing because that day, you know, my money was low. So if I got fired for being dishonest, then that's all it was. But it wasn't a scheme. Later on, maybe a few days later, they called me into the office and showed me the security cameras and said that I was part of a scam. And they fired about 11 people for the same reason. So I don't know if they paid this dude to do that or they asked him to do that. And like when he did it, like I don't even know his name. I don't know nothing about him. We wasn't friends. But he had this look on his face like he was frustrated, like he was angry. So when he put my food on the scale, again, it was half on, half off. Now listen, I'm nobody's manager. And it's not my place to tell another person how to do their job. So I kept my mouth shut because that's not my place. I know my place. I was a coffee bean seller. I sold coffee beans and I did a very good job according to the estimation of the customers, I did a very good job in the coffee department. So I got shanked. I got stabbed up by Fairway Market. And you know, they had a lot of other racial incidents at that place. And I was like, man, this place is evil. Now I'm glad to announce that Fairway Market has filed for bankruptcy. I guess you get what you put out. You know what I'm saying? And by the way, I had just started chanting Hare Krishna at that time. So I will work 8 hours and I'm chanting the whole time I'm working, either silently or inside, or I'm chanting like in a low voice. So I was doing my job and I was making spiritual advancement because I kept Krishna's name vibrating on my tongue, you know, and in my heart. So anyway, during the time I was working at Fairway Market, it was mostly in the winter time and it was real cold. So what I would do, I'd have to leave real early and walk to the bus, and it was freezing. So what I would do is just chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate. Well, you get the idea. So I used to chant this a lot. Now, this is before I knew what this Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya would do. But what I did notice was that even though the atmosphere was cold, my body would start to heat up from the inside to the point where I would start sweating. You know what I'm saying? So I know that there is power in Om Namo Bhagavate. So if, God forbid, you ever find yourself in a situation where you're exposed to the cold or you can't protect yourself from the cold, try that mantra. I bet you it'll help you out. You know, at least you won't freeze to death. Again, that mantra brings up your internal energy. So now that I have glorified Vasudeva, which is another name for Krishna. Now this is the Krishna. Vasudeva Krishna is the Krishna who resides outside of Goloka Vrindavan. Whenever you see Krishna on earth, outside of Vrindavan, whether he's in Dwarka or if he happens to approach you in New York City or wherever you at, you're seeing a manifestation, an extension of Krishna called Vasudeva, who dwells everywhere. But Krishna will tell you himself, I only dwell in Goloka Vrindavan. So whenever you see Krishna performing his pastimes outside of the Goloka planet or outside of Vrindavan in India, you're actually seeing his expansion, which is Vasudeva Krishna. Now, let's get on to the meat of the subject. The name of this video should be called Female Transportation, and I'll tell you why. Most people who have a vehicle in the material world will name it something. They'll say she or her. They'll refer to their car or their bicycle as female, like she, or she's so dependable, or she's such a good car, right? And you have to ask yourself at some point, why are cars mentioned as female entities? And then when you look, I always tell you, as above, so below. When you look internally inside the cells of the living entity, there is a structure called the mitochondria. Mitochondria is the female part of your cell. It carries energy around to different parts of your cell so your cell can survive. You're looking at it under a microscope, it actually looks like a bus, like a bus or a train. It's long and it looks like it's carrying something. And you know, whenever somebody travels from point A to point B, there's always an exchange of energy. Just like whenever lightning travels from the sky to the ground, the energy switches up, the polarity switches up, the particles in the air, they go from positive ions to negative ions. And when they are negative ions, they attract toxins and the toxins fall to the ground, which is why the air is always cleaner after a lightning storm. So we have these things inside of our body, these transportation structures called mitochondria, and they are female. They are members not of the Y chromosome, but they're coming from the X chromosome. So every time you see transportation or exchange of energy in the body, that's a female activity going on. Likewise, on the earth level, whenever we have transportation, whether it's airplane, train, car, boat, anything that transport is referred to as a feminine entity. She, her. Now, how can we relate this to the scriptures? Well, something I noticed is that whenever you have people like Lord Shiva, he has a bull. Bull's name is Nandi. Nandi is male. You have Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu rides a transportation called Garuda. And you have Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma also rides a swan. I don't know the name of Brahma's swan, and I don't know the gender, but if we're just going to follow along the same path, I'm going to make an assumption that Lord Brahma's swan, and if anybody knows the name of Lord Brahma's swan, please post it as a comment in the video, and I'm just going to assume that Lord Brahma's swan is what? Male. So when we're going into the subtle planes of existence, or we're going even higher into the spiritual planes of existence, what happens is that we have a male transportation entity. But remember, in the material world, the transportation entity is female. Now, we also have another reversal. Now remember, the car is your servant. The bicycle is your servant. The airplane, they're all serving you. And in this material world, this is just how it's arranged. This is not reverse feminism or male chauvinism. But in the material world, the highest and most powerful servants are the female entities. And if it wasn't for the female, most of y'all know, if it wasn't for your grandmoms, you wouldn't have no family. I know because after my grandmom passed, our family broke up, separated, split up, and went their own ways. So the greatest servant in my family was a woman, and she was the strongest person in my family, was my grandmother. So likewise, in the material world, our strong servants being the females, of course we're going to naturally name our cars after females. In the spiritual world, the phenomenon is slightly different. You see, Krishna and Balaram are brothers. But Krishna and Balaram are also known as the same person with different moods. Krishna is the blackish enjoyer. He's always enjoying himself. And Balaram is the whitish servant. He's always making sure that Krishna has the clothes, the flute, the paraphernalia, the location, and the right time to do his pastimes. This is what Balaram does. Balo is strength, it's power. You know, so this Lord Balaram in the spiritual world, he is like, you know, in the servant of the capacity of a servant to Lord Krishna. You know, and I don't want you to get this idea of servitude mixed up with servitude on earth, because when we serve on earth, we never get a fair break. The master always comes off better than the servant. However, in spiritual affairs, Krishna is very special because he says in the Bhagavate Gita that to the extent that a person surrenders to me, that's the extent that I make myself manifest to them. So it's real beautiful how Krishna deals with you, because you can't do something for Krishna or give something to Krishna without getting something in return. So it's an equal break. Now, if you want to conquer Krishna and make him your servant, all you got to do is love him. Because I hate to use this term, and I don't mean no offense, but Krishna is a sucker for love. So if you want to really activate your power over Krishna, then all you got to do is love him. The only reason his mother Yashoda could chase him with a stick or tie him up with a rope was because of the extent to how much she loved him. You know, so that's the secret to conquering God. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a beautiful way. If you want to subdue God, all you got to do is love. But that love of God does not come easy. Krishna will give you a house. He'll give you a car, a beautiful wife, all kind of material things, all kind of blessings. He'll even give you liberation. But bhakti is not given easily. Bhakti, that's why people say Namo Maha Vadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate when talking about Lord Chaitanya, because Krishna himself is Purushottama, Lila Purushottama. So he is the supreme force of Lila, or beautiful pastimes. And you have different forms of Purushottama. So Krishna being Leela, but the Prema, the divine love, highest aspect of divine love is Lord Chaitanya. So Krishna came back in this age of Kali Yuga as Lord Chaitanya to give Prema, which in Arabic is known as Ishq, and Ishq is divine love. So I just wanted to share that with you, that in the spiritual world, the vehicular force of motion and power is a male masculine entity, Lord Balaram, Baladev Ki Jai. And in the material world, the supreme form of transportation and exchange is the female. So I just wanted to share that, and if you could take it a step further, drop some jewels or drop comments or some verses from the scriptures that can corroborate this. And if I'm wrong, if you can prove me wrong, feel free to prove me wrong, because I'm not infallible, but I'm just trying to speak from the revelations that the Lord has revealed to me. And as such, I just want to leave you with my favorite mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Peace.